Yeah, it's on. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is our last community budget input meeting. We want to thank everyone who's here in person, our team members, as well as the public, and also those who are listening online. I'm going to go over a brief presentation, giving you some updates and information on where we are currently at in our budget process. And then you will have the opportunity to ask questions, either in person or online. Um, in the budget process right now, we have received information from our department leadership, and we are actually going through those numbers to see what we can and cannot include in this year's budget. There's not a lot that can go in it based on our revenue sources, but we'll get into that as we talk about the millage and the taxes that it includes. So if we were to go to the presentation on the screen, you will see that here, this first slide talks about the actual changes in our fund balance for our 3-year review. What you would typically see in these funds are the balances are typically slightly going up each year. When you look at the one that is not going up, you're going to look at the Road and Drainage District Fund, and it is in a negative $15 million state, and that's because of Hurricane Ian and the amount of money we had to pay out for debris removal to get the city sort of right sized from the disaster. And by all accounts, I was not here, but we have heard lots of positive feedback from the community in the speed in which our public works team was able to do that compared to some other hurricanes, Charlie and Irma, in the past. Our general fund ad valorem assumptions, this is your property tax, which is the main tax that funds the general fund. We included some assumptions of an estimated taxable value increase of 7.5%. That is conservative. I'm hoping that it comes in closer to 10 to 12%. We do know that it has been higher in recent years based on the housing boom that we've been able to take advantage of, which has helped us keep our millage rate constant for the last 4 years. But we believe this year might be a little bit different, and there's going to be some challenges there. We expect to collect our property tax at a 96.5% rate, and these assumptions will bring in a little more than $2 million at our current millage rate of 3.7667. In all funds, we are utilizing a factor of 3.5% for growth for existing level of service and personnel. We are working with our contracts right now for our public safety. We have completed the one for police. Police contract was aided by the fact that the commission gratefully right-sized several different positions and categories last year during our fiscal year, and it helped us out a lot during that contract negotiation. We're working on fire right now. It's just beginning, and it should be done shortly, and that will be calculated into the budget process as well. Salary growth of 2.5% for cost of living adjustment is included as well, and cost impacted associated with capital projects are ongoing staffing and operating costs, including maintenance. So the general fund changes that have been outlined for 2024, the increase in salaries, the CPI of 2.5%, health insurance and operating costs total $5.4 million, which is slightly more than the $2.2 million you saw on the other slide. So when you think about, well, what does it mean for that gap that we're trying to solve for in that piece of the equation, that does not include any budget proposals added to that number. Budget proposals are what our departments need in addition to what we have right now to operate this year, but to continue to provide or enhance the services that we provide in order to meet the obligations of our community. We do that by looking at our commission priorities, 6 priorities: good governance, infrastructure and facilities integrity, safe community, environmental resiliency and sustainability, quality of life, economic development, and growth management, as well as a new pillar for disaster recovery, which was introduced in our last strategic planning session, and our commission has approved it. Those are the 7 pillars that we believe are most closely related to the outcomes that we want to achieve. And we try to tie our budget request back to those outcomes because we want to put our money where our mouth is and show the public and the people that when we say we care about a particular priority, it is supported through our financial distribution. The fiscal year 2024 adopted budget by all funds shows that infrastructure and facilities is 40% of deep high, and the next largest one is Safe Community, 76 million and 31%. They're the largest because infrastructure and facilities is, of course, it takes a lot of money to run the buildings, the roads, the bridges, and everything that the city needs to maintain at a high level for the population that we know is continually growing. And Safe Community, our officers, our assets and buildings and what they need as far as vehicles, all of that goes in to make sure that we continue to keep our crime rate low and our safety rate high. There's a lot of things that we all love about this city. I can almost guarantee you that the main thing is feeling safe in your home and your day-to-day traverses through this city is more important than anything is peace of mind, in my opinion. Um, Fiscal year '24 adopted budget by pillar, the general fund. The general fund funds a lot of the safe community pillar, which is 61% or $45 million. Good governance is 15 million or 21%. And then the quality of life is 8 million or 11% of the general fund. Again, the general fund is the main fund of where you would think your property taxes are used in order to support the government services that you see. The reason why some of the other funds aren't on here that you might think of, public works, utilities, they are enterprise funds, and a lot of them support themselves through revenues and fees that they charge. One of the biggest things this year that we're trying to tackle, as we have a few legacy problems that we are dealing with, is the ULDC update. And so where we are in the process, we just had Chapter 5 reviewed by the commission on April 22nd. They were committed to trying to find a balance to allow the businesses and those who are in need to advertise via signs in our right-of-way, while making sure that the city could do the same as making sure that we had the proper safety and events that affect the entire community as well. It's quite a challenge, and you have to give them credit for trying to figure out a valuable compromise. The Natural Resource Division, Natural Resource Chapter, which is Chapter 6 of the ULDC, was discussed on yesterday. Very good and robust conversation regarding our desire to make sure that we capitalize on the Natural Resource Division and continue to show that we care about our environment by making the best choices in keeping as much of the natural landscape as we have as possible, while knowing that we are one of the fastest growing cities in the country. The first reading of the Companion Comprehensive Plan is going to be at the end of May, and the full adoption of the comp plan and ULDC is anticipated at the end of June or beginning of July. The ULDC is a great segue into our need for commercial taxes versus residential taxes. We are currently at roughly 8% commercial for the city of Northport, and we need to be somewhere between the 20 and 30% range. We know that if we do this, we will decrease the burden on our residents and increase the burden on the businesses who are here to do business here in the city. We do not believe that that is an undue burden on our businesses, because we want people to come here, and as people are still coming and growing here, it will help supplement their businesses, because we want our business community to be successful. 90% of our workforce currently travels outside of the city. We would like to keep them in our city. In order to do that, we need jobs. Therefore, our business community is definitely needed. The ULDC rewrite proposes to convert single-family land to job and tax-reducing uses. That's how it works in cities of our size. We have grown in the last few years tremendously. Now we're just catching up to some things that we need to make sure that we can sustain ourselves over the course of time. Economic development and the Gateway Corridor Study. This is where the Gateway Activity Center intersects at 75 and Sumter. The study provided potential land use and stormwater mitigation alternatives for future development. That is where the SMH hospital will be located, and we have a great amount of confidence that that is going to turn into a very, very, very active area for the city. As someone asked earlier, there are flood mitigations and actions being taken so that it does not have the same effect that we had with Ian, which was a 500-year storm, but still preparing for at least a 100-year storm as they prepare that area to be developed for the hospital and what comes across the street from it as well. Draft alternatives were presented to the City Commission on April 23rd, and the study should be complete in June. Another economic development activity center study is number 6, and it's over at I-75 in Yorkshire and Braintree area. And this will provide the same potential land uses as well. The east side of the city is growing extremely fast. If you think about it in its size, it's the size of roughly Welland Park. So we will have 2 activity centers generating mass volumes just in opposite ends of the city. And with 104 square miles, we're grateful for that. But if you think about the middle of the city, think about Toledo Blade and the activities we have over there, we are really looking at creating a walkable downtown in the middle of our city as well, so that we can have something for everyone in our city, all areas of our city, to go to at different times. Hospitals and other current efforts, Sarasota Memorial intends to break ground in 2025, not only at the I-75 Sumter intersection, but also in Welland Park. And in Welland Park, HCA just broke their ground for their new emergency center on last week. So we're happy to say that has hit the ground and is running. And we know that it will be a long effort to get it built, a few years, but we're excited about having hospital care in our community that is only growing and the needs are only growing. The Acadia Behavioral Healthcare is under construction, which will provide another layer of support for those who have healthcare issues that can be treated right here in the city of Northport without going out elsewhere. We're glad to be able to have more opportunities to sustain ourselves and take care of ourselves. And we're also working on 2 potential commercial and entertainment districts along the Toledo Blade corridor that will hopefully come to fruition and show the city more of what it's missing. Impact fees, this comes into the category when growth is supposed to pay for growth. Impact fees will be a great assistance in how we maintain our infrastructure, especially the new infrastructure, the roads and the building that we need. It can be used only for infrastructure improvements that increase capacity, such as new or widened roads or new lanes. It cannot be used for operating costs. And since we raised our full impact fees in 2022 to the highest that can be raised, we're doing the best we can with those impact fees right now. We do believe that since we have not traditionally always charged at 100%, that we have left money on the table, or you can look at it as the city was not as populated as it was when it was at a lower rate, and that lower rate may have gotten us everything that we have right now. So it's a double-edged sword for sure. Our total personnel costs, when you look at this, you see that our personnel costs are rising just in line with the population of this city that is rising. We have to make sure that we keep up with the levels of service that we want, the high level of services that we provide. And we can't do that if we don't keep up in personnel. In fiscal year 20, we did a salary study. In fiscal year 23, we had a 5% market adjustment. And in fiscal year 24, we increased police salary tables. The police salary tables is a big deal around here, because when you have a sheriff in other jurisdictions, they like to come and approach your already trained staff because they can pay more money. Gratefully, this city commission has recognized that when we have pointed it out to them, and they have right-sized our police staffing, and we're very proud to say that we have provided them what they need so they can have a high-quality workforce. The new personnel, by the 5-year summary by department, you'll see police, as I stated, is probably the highest at 43, based on the needs of the city. And by the consultant's review, we were committed to adding 16 sworn officers each year until we got to our number. That would have taken, I think, 3 or 4 years. And also, they have a few non-sworn civilian positions they need as well that we're working on. Fire is still recruiting and bringing in their staff as well. We know that we're going to have a need for 2 new fire stations in the upcoming years, and it's better to phase those in 6 at a time as opposed to adding 18 in 1 year and 18 in another year, because then you decrease the quality of candidate that you're receiving. City manager's office, we consolidated ourselves with communications, which has worked out well under the leadership of Jason Bartalone. Development Services Department at 31, you will notice them mainly because they are the direct linkage to the growth that you see as it relates to permits and the building and code enforcement. They are on the front line of seeing the growth before anyone else sees it. So we're grateful that under Director Elena Ray, they've been able to keep up with that number and keep breaking records in the number of permits that we here each and every year. But you're going to see our staffing grow up. We have to make sure that we meet the moment of what's necessary in order to stay where we need to on top of things. If we get behind things, we're going to have a situation where playing catch up is going to be a lot more painful in the future. When you look at operating costs, you'll see that there's a spike in fiscal year 23. Of course, that is Hurricane Ian. That's pretty easy to see. But the property insurance right now is also a hard market, and as we are self-insured and we take care of our facilities and the areas that we need to, your local government, are experiencing challenges just like you are at home. We have a budget. We have revenue that's coming in that we have to watch and monitor. We have expenses that we have to watch and monitor. So it's all a balancing act as we try to provide to you the best services possible without doing anything more differently than we have to. When you look at our millage rate in comparison as a per capita revenue estimated, you will see that the city of Northport is at $601. And this chart shows you that we are still relatively low to those around us as we charge for a millage per capita. I do believe that we are better off suited for a millage rate that goes at an incremental rate, as in like 3 to 5% a year, as opposed to waiting a few years and then going up 9, 10, 11%. I don't think that's the best way to manage our millage rate, because then it hits you all at one time, as opposed to something that just goes up incrementally like everything else that goes up incrementally. So we're going to talk about that. The commission has guided us not to provide for a millage rate increase, so we will provide them a balanced budget without a millage rate increase. But it's going to be tight for sure. And it will be tight due to our low new employee count. Right now, our employee count is at 28-ish, and only 9 of those are general fund. And last year, that number was about 45 to 50. So we are going to have to bring that number down, and we want it to stay down as much as it can, but we will not keep it down for the sake of sacrificing services or allowing our staff to get burnt out, which will lead to deeper problems in the organization. The new enterprise resource planning system, this is a system that it is the brains and the heart of our system that the city uses. Ours is outdated. It needs to be replaced. It is a multi-year process that will cost multi-millions of dollars. So we're going to have to figure out how to pay for that within our budget, knowing that it will make your government more efficient and effective and should reduce human error, as well as tie us into better technology. The charter amendment, borrowing authority. The city does not have borrowing authority. We believe we are the only city in the state of Florida that does not have this borrowing authority, that we can go and incur debt without going to a voter referendum. This one is the most important thing that we're going to talk about this year, because the city is 65 years old. Our infrastructure is aging, and we need to be able to borrow just like anyone else, or just like you at home can borrow in order to buy and build on your own. This is something that we need with the right guardrails, right debt management policy, and of course the right internal and external controls, which Venice, Sarasota City, Sarasota County, everyone has it. It's just time for us to do it. The new police headquarters, we thank everyone who gave us feedback during that initial process. We did listen to you. This was government listening to you when you said, hey, go back and revise your plan. Hey, go back and see how much revenue you have and what can you afford to build. So that's what we're doing right now, and that will be determined in the fall when we have our fiscal condition analysis as well as economic development analysis to sort of piggyback on any grants, appropriations, or selling of property, use of surtax. All of that should be a little bit more clear as we continue to move on with the design work for the police department in the fall, to figure out how and how much we want to spend on a police department that we will recommend to the commission. The Resilient SRQ Grant Infrastructure Program is being led by the county. We're grateful that they have included us in many of their conversations. We have submitted many projects for them to consider as they give out the tranches of funding. The amount of the grant was $201 million. We do know that we will not get $201 million, but we are confident that we have enough need that we've shown the county and its decision makers at the city of Northport, who was hit the hardest during Hurricane Ian, definitely needs some of the most relief back to this city. so our residents can take advantage of rehabbing their still destroyed homes. And financial support to community projects. We're working with YCMA to bring a new YCMA here to the city of Northport over on Toledo Blade and Price, where King Plastics is located. King Plastics is actually building the YMCA. We are grateful for them. They are the largest employer, not named the city, here in the city of Northport, and we are fortunate to have someone that cares so much to give back to their community. They will build the YMCA. The YMCA will actually operate it. So the money that the YMCA is looking for is only about $500,000, and we have received positive feedback from our partners at the state level as well as the county level. So we're looking forward to that relationship, and a groundbreaking is scheduled, I believe, in the upcoming month or so. So that will be something very, very good that we can all put and hang our hats on as we provide more programming for our youth, as well as programming, I believe, for adults as well. So I'm going to stop right there, and I will ask if there are any questions in the room or if there are any questions online.
Thank you, sir. We do have one question for you online. If anyone from the audience wishes to ask a question, they're welcome to come up to the podium and they can ask their question to the city manager or to the staff that are here. But in the meantime, we do have a question from Brian Laval on Facebook. And bear with me, it's a little long, sir, but Brian asks, given the city's plans to develop three separate downtown areas, could you please elaborate on the key performance indicators being used to measure the success of these developments? And then the second part of his question, how can we as residents actively participate and ensure that the city meets or exceeds these goals, especially considering the current business to citizen ratio and the geographical spread of our community?
So I would say the metrics that we're going to use to measure the success of our downtowns is one, we want to bring jobs here to the city, first and foremost. We need jobs here, at all levels, and a diversity of jobs. And we need a diversity of eating options. We need a diversity of shopping options. And I believe that when you see that, you're going to be able to quantify that in a very measurable way. When I think about what can the citizens do in order to make sure that those three areas are successful, one, we need to realize that we have a lot of services and activities locally that you can do and get involved in without going to other places. Look and recognize and read and see what activities are being offered here in Northport before we take ourselves and our services and our money outside of Northport. I think that would be helpful. We want these places, these businesses to be successful, and we've got to show them by patronizing them and making sure that we support them and show them that we want them to thrive here. We have a great small business community here in this city. We know that some of them are expanding, and keeping them expanded within the city of Northport limits will go a very long way. I think that they understand that we care about them as a business community, but if you could show them that you care, I think that goes a long way. We want to still cultivate those relationships by ensuring that we're there when they need them, whether it's through the chamber or through other outlets. But we need the community to just get involved, get engaged, and make sure that your local government hears your voice. Every voice matters, and we want you to vote and participate. We traditionally don't tell you how to vote or what you should vote for. We just want you to vote. The most important thing is that you do participate. So I'll stop right there. But Brian, that was a good question, and I think that we have a lot of work to do as we look at what's ahead of us and fix some things that were behind us. We're about to turn a corner here in the city of Northport and start looking forward, and we have a lot of challenges ahead. But it'll be exciting. But we have to all be in it together, and we all have to know where we stand and what we need.
Thank you, sir. We're not seeing any other questions. We have some feedback that people have provided, so we thank you for watching online. Unless we have any other questions from the audience, we just want to remind everyone that citizens can go to northportfl.gov/budget input. They can see past meetings, videos that we've done, and presentations. They can also take a $100 tool that we have. You can play with $100 and allocate your priorities and let us know what you would prioritize in a budget. And you can also email our team there, and any other questions that you have, we'll follow up with our staff, any budget input or questions that you'd like to provide. But that's all for our online audience right now.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for attending. We appreciate it. We hope we see you again in the future as the budget continues to develop. Sure.